Hi guys, this is Alvito and welcome back to the Study and Work Abroad channel. I'm going to be talking about student visas and explaining the student visa process, but more importantly, the logic that goes behind applying for a successful student visa. You may know, but let tell you this. At Study and Work Abroad, our student visa approval rates are well above 93 to 95%. For the US, we are pretty much 100%. Canada is above 93%. The UK is 100%, New Zealand is around 90%. We've got really high approval rates for our student visas because we get very meticulous about how we apply for your student visa. Watch this video till the end. I'm going to be talking about a few points with regard to how to apply for student visas and the logic that we use when we apply for student visas. So if you're looking to go abroad and get your student visa approved, or if you're struggling with making your student visa application, do get in touch with us and we will help you get your student visa sorted. So first, let's talk about what types of student visas there are. So the US calls it the F1 visa. There are different names in different countries for the student visa, but it doesn't really matter. You're ultimately applying to study either a bachelor's or a master's degree in that country. I will talk to you together about the US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, Ireland, all of these countries. All of them have one simple logic. You have to prove to the visa officer that you're a valid and genuine student who's looking to study. You may also be looking to work. However, visa officers know that you're also looking to work. But you need to prove to them that you are a genuine student and you have an intent to study in that country. I will talk about the documentation, the checklist of documents. I will talk to you about preparing your visa application. I will talk to you about the student visa interview and preparing yourself for the interview. I will also talk to you about common pitfalls or common mistakes students make when applying for a student visa. And after you've got your student visa approval, what processes you need to follow, as well as how do you handle your or how do you manage yourself at the border when you enter the country. So let's get started. What are the documents that go into a student visa application? It's very simple. Whatever is on your resume from your 10th standard onwards, you need a document to support that when you apply for your student visa. So it has to be your 10th, your 12th, all semesters of your bachelor's marks and your mark sheets. If you've done any other diplomas, any other extracurricular certificates, if you've done a master's, all mark sheets need to be attached to your student visa application. You will have work experience. For students who have work experience, who are a little older, you may have 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever amount of work experience. You need to have proper work experience documents. Along with supporting work experience documents, we also show proof of salary payments. That really makes it really genuine. Sometimes these officers think that work documents can be framed or made up, fake. So the only way to prove that you've genuinely worked in a certain place is to support it with a bank statement that shows at least the last 3 months of your salary that you've received from that organization. So if you worked at 5 different organizations, we will attach 5 different bank statements to support your work experience. This gives the confidence to the visa officer that you are a genuine applicant. The next, apart from academics and work experience, you have to have financials. Financials go a very long way in a student visa application. You have to have strong financials to prove to the visa officer that you and your family, your parents, and your sponsors have enough money to support you for your student duration, for your studies, whether it's a bachelor's or a master's, whatever duration of time that you're going to study. You have the money to pay your tuition fees, you have the money for your living expenses. But above and beyond that, we also support the student visa application and prove that you have enough reasons to come back to India. So for the Canada visa application, for the New Zealand visa application, we also show what is a net worth certificate of the family, of your parents, of your sponsors and yourself. By doing this, we are proving to the visa officer that you have enough reasons to come back to India and you're just not running away from here. You have enough assets either by yourself or by inheritance, or your family has enough assets for you to live a quality life in India. And hence that proves that you will also return back to the country. You may not want to return back. These officers know you're also going to be working. However, they need to be convinced that you are a genuine applicant, you're a genuine student, and if at all in a situation where you have to come back, you don't mind coming back to the country. So financial documents go a long way. What do we do for financial documents? You can show savings accounts, bank statements, fixed deposits. Some countries also accept mutual funds. In the financial network, we put all of the assets that are required. Most importantly, you can apply for a student loan and support your application with a student loan. And student loans are a strong document because visa officers know that the bank has done an assessment. You have a responsibility to pay back your loan. So student loan becomes a very strong document in your visa application. Next is your medical, your police clearance certificate. In some countries, these requirements differ from country to country. We will not talk about that in this video, but those are documents that are needed for your student visa application. So now what is this process of applying for a student visa? The first process is your admission application. You have to get an admission. Once you have an offer letter, in the US, you pay your I-20 deposit. In the UK, you pay your cash deposit. In Canada, you have to pay, if you're applying under the SDS, you have to pay your entire tuition fee. If it's Germany, you have to pay your entire tuition fee for the first year. Germany also requires a blocked account. Canada requires the GIC. In Australia, you have to pay the first semester as a deposit. New Zealand doesn't require a deposit. Ireland requires a deposit. So different countries have different requirements. That's the first step after you've secured your admission. You pay your deposit. The second step is getting through your visa interview. You have to go through the visa interview either for the CAS interview or the GS interview, whatever may be the case, country to country. After you've done that, we file your visa application. All documents are ready. We will file your visa application and then we wait for your visa approval to come through. Once you've had your visa approval, the next steps follow. I'll touch on the visa interview. So the US mandatorily has a visa interview. Some other countries also do. Canada does not do a visa interview. Ireland doesn't do. Germany does the visa interview sometimes. The UK does visa interviews, but they have more of CAS interviews. Australia has got the GS interview. New Zealand in New Zealand you may or may not have an interview, but preparing for the visa interview is very important. We at Study and Work Abroad, I will personally take mock interview sessions with you, where we will train you on how to handle the visa interview. In the US, you pretty much get just a minute, maybe one or two or the max 3 questions, and the visa officer has decided your file. So how do you make that impression in those 1, 2, or 3 questions in the first or the second minute of your interview? It's very critical. So we're going to, out of experience, like I said, we have 100% visa approval rates for the US because we prepare our students really well to manage and handle the visa interview. Same thing with UK CAS interviews. The universities will take a CAS interview. Majority of the universities do CAS interviews. We will prepare you to how to handle and clear your CAS interview. Now, what are the common mistakes? What are common pitfalls students usually make when applying for a student visa? The minutest of details go a long way in a visa approval, and students tend to ignore such minute details. For example, when you're applying and showing your work experience documents, supported with a bank statement. Some agents, some consultants will tell you that's not needed. We think it's mandatory because we've seen that our visa approval rates go so much more higher because it convinces the visa officer that you're a genuine applicant. Something as simple as preparing a list of financial documents, what we call an LOFDE, a summary of your financial statements as the first page, and then sequentially put all of your financial documents. It makes the document so much more simpler, so much more easier for the visa officer. So when a visa officer sees a file like that way, they like to look at it and probably give you your visa approval. Very minute details that we at Study and Work Abroad will get into when we're applying for your visa. But we ensure that we put all documents, we don't leave any stone unturned when we make the application. There are small minute details that you need to take care of when preparing for your visa interview. How do you present yourself? You cannot just go and blurt out mugged up questions and answers. You need to know, you need to understand what answer to what question, put logic behind that answer. And that is what we will train you when we do visa interview. So once you've got all of this in place, you've got your documents, properly. You've sequentially put it. You've proved your financial abilities. You've proved your ability to come back to India. You proved through your visa interview that you are a genuine applicant. You are a good student. You're probably going to get your visa interview. If you put all of these documents in place, you've done your visa interview well, there's a very high probability that you're going to get your visa approved. Once you've got your visa approval, there are different processes for different countries. The UK will stamp your visa. Now it's moving to an e-visa, but you need to get the visa stamped on your passport. In Canada, you need to submit your passport to VFS. They will stamp the visa and send it back to you. The visa officer's visa interview, the visa officer will tell you whether your visa is approved or not. So he'll retain your passport and then it will get couriered to you, or you can pick it up at a later date. So it is very similar in all these countries. New Zealand is a little different, where you'll get a visa approval and then you will be asked to pay your fee. You pay your fee, the FTS, and then your final visa is sent to you. Then a lot of students have questions about what happens at the border. You've got your student visa, you've packed your bags, you're now ready to take your flight. Sometimes visa officers in certain countries have questions at the border, especially for the US visa, sometimes for New Zealand, sometimes for the UK, even sometimes for Canada. So once you've landed into your destination country, the visa officer has the right and the discretion to ask you a few questions about your visa application. Not all of them do it. It's a very small probability, maybe 5%, 10%. But you have to be very confident in talking to the visa officer at the immigration counter. What are they going to ask you? They're basically going to ask you about your visa application, about yourself, about your accommodation, where are you going to study, what are you going to study, very simple stuff. So don't get nervous once you've landed into the country. The fact that you've got your visa approved, you should be able to handle these questions over there. A lot of students ask questions about, oh, they send students back from there. They don't really, unless they are really suspicious about something. But if you've got your student visa approved, you've done your interview well, you've got all your documents in place, the border doesn't really matter. You can carry your documents that you've used in your visa application in your hand baggage. So if the visa officer at the border wants to ask you for certain documents, you have them to furnish them to him. So this is just about applying for a student visa and how to get a successful student visa approved. Now it sounds very simple in a video, and when I talk to you, when we actually get into it, there are very minute details that we at Study and Work Abroad get into in order to get your visa approved. Like I said at the start of the video, our visa approval rates are in excess of 95% overall since the start of Study and Work Abroad. So do get in touch with us to apply for your application, get your admission, to get your visa approved, and get into your dream country. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video.